Hello, and welcome to Save Your Sanity, Help for Toxic Relationships. I'm Dr. Rhoberta Shaler. Tonight we're going to be talking about 3 phases of healing from emotional abuse. And it's important to know that you can start right now with the healing process, even if you are currently in an emotionally abusive relationship. And I want to make that very clear right from the beginning, because you might think, oh, first I've got to sift and sort everything before I can start healing. And it's not true. So feel encouraged by that. So we'll be talking about the 3 phases of healing from emotional abuse. And I'm really glad you've joined me. If it's your first time, welcome. And if you're returning, I'm delighted that you did. It's always wonderful to have you here. And as you can see, you can always find me at forrelationshiphelp.com, FOR relationshiphelp.com. So if you haven't listened to other podcast episodes, you can certainly do that at the website or wherever you like to get your podcasts. It's important to recognize that the healing journey, not as speedy as you might hope, but definitely can be undertaken. And we need to have that hope. We need to truly understand that it won't always be like this. It can change. It can change significantly, and that you can engage in the process as soon as you're ready, or even before you think you're ready. You want to be free of emotional abuse, or as free as you possibly can be. I'm here to help you with that. If you have been enjoying Save Your Sanity and found value in it, I welcome your donations at patreon.com/saveyoursanity. patreon.com/saveyoursanity. You can make a one-time donation or a $3, $5, $10 donation a month, whatever you would like to do, and I appreciate those who do it so greatly. So patreon.com/saveyoursanity. 3 phases of healing. The first one is realization. That you actually come to the realization that you have experienced emotional abuse, or maybe still are experiencing emotional abuse, and you realize this is not okay with you. It is simply not okay. And you may feel really burdened by it all. And you may be feeling a bit like somebody's cat toy at the moment, and they're just hitting at you whenever they want. Wherever you are in the journey, maybe you're out of it, but having difficulty leaving it behind in your mind and your heart. But the first phase of the healing journey is realization. And the definition in Oxford Dictionary of realization is the act of becoming fully aware of something as a fact. The act of becoming fully aware of something as a fact. So when you really become aware that emotional abuse has been in your life, you have been touched by it, or maybe even slammed down by it. You've certainly been put down by it, worn out by it, torn down by it. So when you fully recognize that you have been abused, the beginning of the healing journey is there. And in that realization, that's when you gather facts. When you are watching my videos on YouTube at For Relationship Help, or you are watching and listening to my podcast at saveyoursanitypodcast.com, or wherever you like to get your podcasts, as I said earlier, and you are gathering information and you're having those wonderful moments, at least I hope they're wonderful, where you say, oh, yes, that's exactly what's happening to me. Oh, I didn't even realize that was happening, but yes. And you begin to feel it is maybe not about me. It's the situation in which I find myself, the relationship in which I find myself, that is the problem. And we have a tendency when we're in a relationship that's emotionally abusive, because usually we are people who are a little bit healthier, than the one who's abusing us. And we realize that I can't change this person. I can't do anything more than I have done, and it's not changing. So the realization hits you that I could keep pouring all my energy, all my love, all my attention, all of my money, all of my resources. I could pour my whole life into this, and it is not going to change. That person on the other side, as I call them, the hijackals, are just going to take and want more. Take and want more till you're flat out. You are a doormat. You are a pretzel. You can't do anything else. You are exhausted. And when you realize that I've done things and it has not improved, I've tried things, I've even apologized for things that I didn't do. I have begged them to talk to me when they gave me this silent treatment. I have done all the things that you've heard me talk about on podcasts, and that person doesn't change. That's the moment of realization. I become aware, fully aware of something as a fact. I am, in fact, being emotionally abused. And it may be linked to the person's earlier life. It may be that abuse is somehow comfortably uncomfortable, but very familiar because maybe you experienced it at home or in a prior relationship and you've fallen into the pattern again. Don't spend a moment beating yourself up about that. Please don't do that. Please say, at this moment, I realize what's happening. Whatever has gone before, that is past. At this moment, I realize what it is. And as I come into that full realization, I can see that I must do something about it, or I am giving myself away to this abuse. And you're far too precious to give yourself away to abuse, far too precious to let someone take power over you in that way, in a repeated fashion. That it's so much of a repeated fashion that it becomes a lifestyle. No. That is not okay. So in this realization phase, the light bulbs are just going on. The more you learn, the more you learn. And you begin to see, I am not alone. It's happening to many people. That's why I have my community, the Emerging Empowered Community, so that you can for sure, not feel alone. And if that interests you, you can go to joinintoday.com and come along over and be part of the Emerging Empowered Community. There are a lot of perks in being a member. One of them is that twice a month, I have a group Ask Me Anything call where you can join in on Zoom with other people and we talk about the things that are of interest to you. So come on over to joinintoday.com if you would like to have a community where you feel safe. It's safely off social media. It's on my website. Where you feel heard, where you feel known, and you are no longer isolated. So that's a good thing, to come from this place of realization and to realize that I do not need to be alone in this. I am not alone in this. And there are people who are in different parts of the journey and I want to join in. So come in to joinintoday.com. So the first healing phase, the first phase of healing is realization. Realization what's really going on, realizing that you don't want it any longer, realizing that you can do something about it and change, realizing that you want to, and then you begin to gather information that confirms and affirms and validates this relationship I am in or I was in is dysfunctional, dysregulated, and disordered. I didn't make it that way. It was the other person who brought that to it. I may have been the one who put up with it, and I realize I am not going to put up with it or tolerate it a moment longer. So Phase 1, realization. Phase 2 is recovery. Now, the meaning of the word recovery is the action or process of regaining possession or control of something that you lost or was stolen. The action or process of regaining possession of something that was lost or stolen. Doesn't that just say what's happened in a relationship where there was emotional abuse? People were stealing your self-esteem, denigrating your self-concept, trying to undermine you, trying to get power over you, endeavoring to control you. So we want to be in that process of regaining something that was lost or stolen. And that is recovery. Now, if we think about this as a wound, and definitely there are lots of wounds when there is emotional abuse going on, but if we think maybe you had a slippage with a meat cleaver and you cut your arm, and it's a deep, deep cut, and it hurts, and it's messy, and it's there, and you're very, very aware of it. And you keep checking it and you take good care of it and you realize, yes, I really am hurt. I truly am hurt. That's important. Don't just pull your sleeve down and say, oh, it's nothing. But to realize you truly are hurt. And then the body quickly starts to say, we know what to do with that. And they go to work trying to pull the edges of the wound together, and it hurts. And it maybe get infected and it maybe get red, but you're taking very, very good care of it because you see it. You see that wound. And then slowly it begins to heal and it gets pulled together and it looks red and angry. Maybe it itches a little bit, like it's uncomfortable, but then someone says to you, oh, that itching, that's usually related to healing. This is a good thing. So now you're not looking at it all the time. It doesn't need to have its dressings changed as often. You're not as worried about it. You are in the recovery process. And you begin to sometimes forget that it's there because it doesn't hurt as much anymore. This is recovery. So we want to be in that situation where eventually we look at our arm and where that terrible wound was, and we see that there's a scar and we are recovered. Recovery is a slow process because we have to take a look at each part of our life and little parts, little pieces. What has happened to us? What was our response to it? How did we spend time with it? Or did we ignore it? Or did we think that someone else would take care of it? Or did we have that awful thought, oh, well, I'm just supposed to suffer? Or to feel somehow you deserve to suffer? That's even more difficult, right? And so to accord yourself the right to recover. You've realized you need to. Now accord yourself the right to recover. And the time it takes is the time it takes. And recovery will regain that possession of what it is you lost. Now, you might ask the question, if I had a hijackal parent and I went into a hijackal relationship, did I ever have that something that seems to have been lost or stolen? Great question. Maybe you never had it. Maybe you were under the impression that that paltry little amount that you were given that seemed to fall under the idea of love or of someone caring for you or someone being interested in you, maybe you never received enough to even recognize when it was missing. That makes the recovery process even more important and a little longer. But don't shy away just because it's not a quick process. Do you know it took you a long time to grow up? It took you a long time to acquire these positions in life, these ideas, these feelings about yourself and how the world works. And it takes quite a while to recover when you find out that that was the wrong road. That road only took you to misery, and you want to go towards joy. So don't spend a moment saying to yourself, oh, I should have seen it. I should have known better. People told me and I didn't listen. Don't go there. I mean, it's tempting. You will go there probably, but don't stay there. Just say, yeah, that's part of the recovery process for me to kind of blame myself or think that I should have done something back years ago when I didn't have the insights I have today. So the recovery section of healing from emotional abuse is a difficult one because you're learning new things. You're learning new things about yourself. And sometimes they feel a little awkward. They don't quite fit right for a while. And yet you like the feeling, but it's really tempting to slip back into the old ways. That's why you need help. That's why I help my clients. That's why I do what I do. And if at any time you want my help, go to beaclient.com. Beaclient.com. There you can access the one-time, 1 hour consultation for new clients and only $97 to spend an hour with me, and I'll help you know what the pathway would be for you to achieve the goals that you want. Beaclient.com. So we know that we need help along the process. It may be help directly by working one-on-one with me, or someone else in my field. It may be joining the Emerging Empowered community, but you know that you need help. You need information, which you were gathering in the realization stage. You were gathering information about what is the situation in which I find myself? What is this? And you've learned that it's emotional abuse, and you're learning about the phases of emotional abuse in the realization stage. Then you get into the recovery phase, and you need to learn how to recover. What do I need to do? What do I need to address? Where do I need to spend my energy? How do I do it? So you need help in that process. You can do the realization stage probably on your own, or at least most of it, because sometimes it's hard to believe and you need someone to help you believe it. But then you can move into the recovery phase, and that's where you need help, because there's a lot of pieces to look at, and maybe you won't gather them all together. And if you did gather them all together, you need to know what to do with them. So the recovery process, that return to a normal, quote unquote, normal state of being or mind or strength, that's recovery. You want to return to a healthy state of mind, a state of health. And that journey is so worth taking. If you're having even a little thought that, oh, that's too much, I don't deserve it, please eradicate that thought right now. You do deserve it. You know, at the end of every podcast, I tell you to be good to yourself because you're precious and you matter. And you deserve to recover from emotional abuse in a healthy way and in a whole way, not just a little bit and get life a little bit better, but bring life all the way up to speed. Open yourself to the possibilities of what your life could offer you. Really do that. And you do that in the recovery process, in the recovery phase of what you need to do to overcome any remnants of damage from emotional abuse. And there are many remnants. There are many great big chunks of cloth, and there are many remnants too. And that's why you want to explore that fully. It's also why I tell people, if you're leaving a relationship that is emotionally abusive, and people ask me all the time, how long will it take? I tell them, leave yourself a minimum of 1 trip around the sun to heal, 1 full year of concentrated attention on healing. And so we want to be in that recovery process, be in that recovery phase, and do the work. Do the work. You never want to be in a relationship like that again, right? And so you have to do the work to make sure that you will never allow that to happen, and you can trust yourself that it won't. And that's what happens with the work. So we've got realization of what's happening, recovery from what has happened. And then the third phase is to recalibrate. And that means to make small changes or adjustments to an instrument that so that it measures accurately. Don't you love that? To recalibrate is to make small adjustments or changes to an instrument so that it measures accurately. So obviously, if we get ourselves into an abusive relationship, by default, or because we were love bombed and we thought it was going to be perfect and it turned out to be anything but, no matter how we got there, it's not about that. It's what do we do once we realize we don't want to be there, or what we do when we realize that it's in our past, but it's unhealed. So then we do the recovery. Now we need to recalibrate. We need to change all of our dials so that we will be focused in the direction of healthier relationships. Healthier relationship with ourselves, healthier relationships with others. We will be able to see unhealthy. We will be able to see red flags clearly. We will have whipped off our rose-colored glasses and been able to see those red flags exactly where they are, waving wildly, and we will not be able to ignore them because we have recalibrated. We have changed our ability to measure accurately. And we need to do that, and we need to build confidence in ourselves that we can do that. You know, a client was reminding me she's very well recovered and out of a relationship that was really, really, really a long journey and a difficult one with a total raving hijackal. And she wanted to go out on a date. And I said to her, well, if you really, really are craving company, the only kind of date I recommend is a practice date. And she said, what do you mean? I said, well, you can go if you want. You could go, but you're practice dating. Someone engages you in conversation, you think, let me see, what is this person really saying? How does this person look? Is their facial expression congruent with their tone of voice? Is their body language congruent with all that? Are they actually looking sincere, or am I ignoring something that's making me uncomfortable? Am I trying to make them into something that they're not showing me by thinking it's so in my mind? So practice dating. And so she was very attractive. She still is, of course. And so she went practice dating, and she found it so liberating because a person would be attracted to her. They'd come over, they maybe buy her a drink or something. And she would practice healthy interaction. She would calibrate and recalibrate. And then she would just say, thank you so much. It's been delightful talking to you. I'm going home now. And she would leave. So it wasn't going to go anywhere. She was practice dating, and it allowed her to gain confidence in her ability to actually know what was going on and to be staying centered in her head, not in her feelings for a while. So that she was practicing making that recalibration. She was learning to measure differently. It wasn't just that someone paid attention to her and thought that she was beautiful and bought her things and wooed her. She wanted a man that she felt was healthy. And so she did some practice dating. There are lots of ways that we can recalibrate, but it's absolutely important that we do it. That we may have been raised in a family that had dysfunction, disorder, or dysregulation. That's all we knew. So what are we going to use to measure another possibility? That's all we have. So we use it. But because you've been through the realization phase, you realize this is not what I want. This is not good enough for me. And then you've been in recovery. So you have all that information and you've changed your mind, you've changed your perspective, you've changed your point of view. And now you've recalibrated and recalibrated. And then you feel you can trust yourself. Trust yourself. How many people have said to me, I want to go dating, but I don't trust myself to choose wisely. I don't trust other people to not all be hijackals. And that's a very valid point, because after you've been with a hijackal or two, and the woman I told you about that did the practice dating, she had had 3 of them in a row, married to all 3, in serial, and finally figured it all out and is much healthier and happier now. But when you have had that kind of background, you don't want to repeat it. And the only way to not repeat it is to get very conscious and intentional about learning how not to. And recalibrating becomes very important at that point. So these are the 3 phases of healing from emotional abuse: realization, recovery, and recalibration. And why it takes so long to heal? You may have had past trauma. You may currently be experiencing trauma. You may be very used to taking on the blame for things that don't go well, or having heard from others that everything is your fault. And you may not want to admit to calling it abuse until now. That's why it may take a while. Who wants to think they're being abused? I understand that completely. Who wants to think that they would allow themselves to be abused? Nobody. But it sneaks up on you with a hijackal, doesn't it? It's like that urban myth of how to cook a frog. You put the frog in cold water on the stove, and you very, very, very slowly turn up the heat, and the frog doesn't notice. Well, that's pretty much like dating and getting into a long-term relationship with a hijackal. The heat keeps being turned up, and excuses made for why it's getting warm in here. And do you relate to that? You probably do if you've been with a hijackal. So you can start today, even if you're in a relationship with a hijackal right now. You can start. You can join the Emerging Empowered community and start to think differently. You can go, as I said, to joinintoday.com and choose to join in. Choose to talk with other people, find like-minded people, find people who are on the same stage of the journey as you are. So go to joinintoday.com. But you can start from right within the relationship and get support for making the decision whether to go or whether to stay. And then you want to pull back and observe. You want to be observing yourself. You want to be observing the relationship. You want to be observing the small change, because change comes by in small increments. You want to do it in small steps and nanoseconds. No big, huge thing is going to occur, but it's going to be cumulative. You're going to get better and better and better. And once you decide that you deserve to be healthy, you deserve to be in a healthy relationship, and that you have calibrated to make that small adjustment to measure accurately the people that you're meeting, then you can count on yourself and go, whoa, I think I'm safe. I can go out in the world. I can see hijackals. They're no longer hidden from me. I can unmask them in a moment with a few questions or a little bit of time, and I know I can count on myself. So I hope this has been helpful to you. And until we speak again, take very good care of yourself, because you're precious and you matter. Talk soon. So, hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm glad to see you here. I hope you're enjoying our new interface here. It's a little bit different than it used to be. So, Walker Hound Gal, welcome back. Hello, Steve. That's nice to hear. Steve says, "You're amazing and you have made me see the light in my situation." Well, good. Let's keep the light on, Steve. So here's a question from Walker Hound Gal. My spouse's family and others blame me openly for my daughter's congenital amputation of limb. How to begin to forgive and recover. 28 years I've been frozen. Oh, that's hard, and that's such a shame, because why would it ever be your fault? You know, you see how hijackals are always making everybody the person to blame. It's always your fault when you're with a hijackal. And the fact that you say it's your spouse's family, well, sounds like that family and your spouse didn't fall far from the tree of that family. Because if they honestly believe it's your fault. Now, even if they said, all right, you drank, you smoked, you took drugs, you stood on your head too often, whatever it is that they said, it is just scapegoating. Because a family that's healthy pulls together to pay attention to the child in need, to pay attention and help so the child can succeed. So we already know something about your family and your spouse's family, because they are looking for a scapegoat. They are looking to find fault, and they've all landed on you. And you did not intentionally go to create something that would be that kind of trouble, that you would have that result. I don't know you, but I know that there's nobody who goes out and says, how can I do something terrible so that I can create something that is beyond my control? So I hope you'll let yourself off the hook. Like, as you say, you've been frozen and you need to forgive and recover. Yes, you need to take back your power. You didn't have the power to create a congenital defect. You did not have that power. And if other people are telling you that you did, you can see the lack of logic in that or argument. So I hope that you will allow yourself to say, it happened. It is not about fault. It is not about blame. And I release the other people's need to make me the scapegoat. And then I hope maybe we will talk. Come on over to beaclient.com or come over to Emerging Empowered Community, and we'll have an opportunity to talk, because I can help you with that, and I'd be very happy to do that. Walker Hound Gal goes on to say, I'm releasing guilt and shame by listening to your podcast. Yay! While I'm awake, then when I'm asleep, so my subconscious doesn't miss a word. That's a very smart thing to do. Listen to podcasts repeatedly, as she did, but also listen in your sleep, because the filters are different, the noise level is different, you're not dealing with the noise level of the world, and you can take in that information in a different way. She says, I had a breakdown last year. Conventional therapy doesn't go there. Just recommend let it go. That's not something that is easy to do. It is not easy to let it go. Yes, you're so welcome for my help. Okay, I don't know what Dariet is putting in the chat, so I'll go by that. Isabel, hello. Thank you for the 1-year suggestion for healing. Knew this was not something to sweep under the rug. Deep healing happening, and it's a good thing. Yes, it is. Congratulations. Healing takes as long as healing takes, but stay on the road, because you are worth it. It's so very difficult. Walker Hangal says, conscious decision to heal is seismic. I'll take that trip around the sun. Good. It is seismic. When you actually play on your own team, when you actually say, I'm worth it, I am going to heal, nobody's going to hold me back or hold me down, let me at it, then you're playing on your own team, fully playing on your own team. And such a good thing to do. Absolutely. Because we don't want to get stuck. We just don't want to get stuck. Isabel says, not all hijackals disregard. Oh, discard. Sorry. That was confusing for a while. All the other symptoms were there. Yes, let me say something about that, Isabel. Hijackals are pretty emotionally lazy. And so they're not actively looking for more supply. Some of them just are that lazy and they don't look for more supply. So they won't discard you. They will just abuse you because they're too lazy to go find somebody else to abuse. So they like to keep it local, like to keep it together, and hope that you're going to put up with it. So maybe that insight will help you because they don't all discard. They just want to keep you around and agitate you, irritate you, and you wish they would do what they say, that they'd say that you're useless or you're not worthy or you're boring or whatever they say, and yet they stick around. It's kind of crazy making, but it's because many of them are emotionally lazy. We all hear about the ones who have, women in every port or men in every town. And we think about that they're always gathering supply because they need the validation. But in particular, the ones that tend to be more covert, they often are that emotionally lazy or insecure that they're less secure. So they go and they keep what they have and complain about it. They don't discard you because they're too lazy to do the work. Now, then there's the ones in the middle who are gathering other humans in their life while keeping you to abuse. So that's another thing. Steve says, how can I chat with you? Like for a couple of questions. Well, if you just want to ask a questions, use the Be a Client 1 hour new client opportunity. And if that's not what you want, you can join the Emerging Empowered community. And if it's just a single question that's not about how to fix something, it's something about my work, you can send me an email. And you'll find that on my website at forrelationshiphelp.com. Isabel says, I've been listening to self-hypnosis during sleep. Great. That's very useful. The people who are putting letters and words in, please don't do that because I am going to erase them as soon as we're finished with this, and it is not a marketing opportunity. Hillary says, my husband left tonight because I finally couldn't take the unhappiness anymore and asked to separate. But now my people-pleasing self feels bad. That's normal, Hillary. That's normal. And because you can put those words to it, you can get through it. So let's all of us make a big circle around Hillary. This just happened. And there is that moment when you just feel the loss, when you feel the creeping in grief, when you feel the uncertainty, what did I do? Should I have done it? All of that. Know that that's normal, but you know that you asked him to leave for a very good million reasons. Keep reminding yourself, no matter how I feel, the facts are I am better out of this relationship than in it. Yes, I'm feeling grief. I'm better out of the relationship than in it. I am feeling despair. I don't know how I will make ends meet. I am better out of the relationship than in it. Just keep turning your mind there. Feeling comes back to I am better out than in this relationship. And when you do that for a few days, it will you'll pick up momentum. You'll be able to move forward. You'll be able to take action steps to keeping the separation real. And that will be the beginning of healing. So I hope that that's helpful to you. Walker Houngal says, thank you. Just needed my head turned one little click in the right direction. A new perspective changes my perspective. Yes, that's it. That's why we're in the acquisition of knowledge phase, the actual realization of what's going on. This is the beginning of the healing process, and we're doing it right here, right now. Isabel said, yes, I've heard they are emotionally lazy. Well, they are. I mean, they can't even be bothered to give you a compliment or or keep up a conversation with you in a healthy fashion unless they want something. So can't be surprised that they don't want to go out looking for new supply either. And yes, the covert. Steve asks, can you give me a definition of alienation or your take on it? Well, it's a very controversial subject, as you probably know. Courts do and don't like the word parental alienation. They accept it or they don't accept it. And this all happens. But my take on it, it's when a person wants to cut you out of another person's life to be the only adult. Usually we talk about it as parental alienation. So in the case of a hijackal, the hijackal desperately needs to win. So the hijackal wants to get the children on their side. So they parentify the children and start talking to the children about how terrible you are, and that the children should then engage in what I call upside down parenting. I mean, healthy parenting is when the parents realize their job is to meet the needs of the children. Hijackal upside down parenting is when the hijackal believes that the children are there to meet their needs. So a hijackal parent will try to make themselves the center of attention, make themselves the Disneyland parent, make themselves the one who needs the children, turn the children into little adults, and give the children information about the relationship or about the partner that they shouldn't have and can't possibly understand because they don't have the brain development or the life experience. And so they will push that. And every child wants to like both its parents. It's got half DNA from each. They feel that affinity, and they don't want to hear bad things about the other parent. So they really want to please their parents. So they get caught in a terrible place. Do I please the hijackal parent? Do I please the other parent? Well, what happens is they usually please the hijackal parent when they're with the hijackal, please the other parent. But if alienation takes place, usually means the hijackal parent is beginning to win favor. Maybe they're garnering favor by spending more money, letting the kids do what they want, buying them anything, and letting them go where they want, giving them more freedom, all of that kind of thing. So the whole purpose of parental alienation, whether or not you believe that it should be a term, it happens to so many people where this hijackal spouse is bad-mouthing the other parent to the kids and trying to get them on their side and want to be with them. The sad part about that is when a hijackal parent gets the kids to come on their side, the hijackal parent, who's not terribly interested in the kids, only in you not having them, then begins to pawn them off on their parents or a nanny or a babysitter or a school and doesn't spend time with them anyway. But that's more information than you asked for, Steve, so I hope that's helpful. And ask another question if I didn't get all to it. Walker Houndgal says, my new name for a breakdown is a wake up. Good for you. I bless it. I'm grateful because it was my awareness recognition step. Rough, but it did shake me awake. Great attitude, great perspective. So good for you. That's terrific and something we could all share because we all can wake up more. Always, always, always. All right. So Lucretia, hello. You haven't posted before. Welcome. Is saying, I don't want to talk about this anymore. Emotional abuse and stonewalling. Well, it certainly can be. Also, I mean, if you say it, it's usually because you have been being battered with words for too long. But if a hijackal says it, that I don't want to talk about this anymore, it's usually because you're getting too close to making them responsible or accountable. And so they shut down. And yes, that is abusive. It's abusive to be in a relationship that's supposed to have communication flow and supposedly based on love. And then the person says, not going to talk about that. No, not interested in your feelings, not interested in your thoughts. I don't want to talk about it anymore. So it usually says that you're getting too close to their discomfort zone. And so they want to have power, so they walk away. And it's kind of strange because babies only have two kinds of power. They can either refuse to eat or refuse to poop. And hijackals kind of go to that place when their back is against the wall. So they refuse to talk. And they do the dreaded silent treatment. But you've probably heard me say before, if they do the dreaded silent treatment, relish in the silence. Enjoy it. Don't be bothered by it. Don't go running after them. Don't try and get them to talk. Don't apologize for things you haven't done. Don't beg them to include you. Enjoy the silence. They talk too much anyway. So enjoy the silence. It's really important to shift your perspective on that one. Hello, John says he's in late. The abuse I receive sounds like I'm crazy. I'm not crazy. I cannot write it. All right. Okay, Annie, hello. She writes, they can never mirror us. They only mirror the black hole inside. I never forget. It's too true. Lucretia says, question, is saying I don't want to talk about this anymore or don't involve me in this anymore emotional abuse? Yes, I already answered that question. And yes, that is emotional abuse because they're saying I refuse to engage with you. And therefore, how do you have a relationship if one person's quit? It's very abusive, and they do it for sure. You're welcome, Steve. They do it on purpose to have power over you, to have control, and to get you to ask, preferably beg. And then they feel like, I'm on top of the pile again. So that's how that one rolls. John says emotional abuse is also the idea of what I perceived of how I expected to behave. By the time I realized the abuse, it was so late that they made your world crazy. Yes, hijackal behavior is crazy making. It totally is. And I want everybody to realize that they are the ones who are doing the crazy making, but you are the ones who are left with the confusion. And when you start to see where that confusion originated, then you can begin to sort things out. And that's what I talk about in a lot of episodes. All right, what else do we have? Annie, we're celebrating. Today is my 10-year anniversary. I left the hijackals with the clothes on my back, and I've never been happier. Keep the faith. Congratulations, Annie. That's great. High five from me and probably everybody else, too. That's great. All right. John says, my hijackal married my dysfunctional family. They hooked up even before we got married. Yes, that often happens. Absolutely. And because you were so used to it from a hijackal family, you didn't know any different and you didn't see it. And that's really common. Don't for a moment beat yourself up around that one. Once you get more information, when you know better, you can do better. And be very, very clear about that equation. So important. You're welcome, Lucretia. I'm glad you feel validated. It is a lot of hard work, Annie, and it's moments that you have that, what did I do? But you have to stay strong because you're moving toward health, and you're a wonderful example of staying strong and keep moving forward. I was really taken today. I don't know if I can find it quickly, but yes, I can. It's on my cell phone here. Really taken today on Martin Luther King Day by this quote of his that he said, I know I put it on the camera here. Yeah, going in the wrong direction. He said this, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. And that's Martin Luther King Jr. And we're just hearing a wonderful example from Annie that whether she had to fly, run, walk, or crawl, she kept moving forward, and she's a success story. And that's great. It's important for us all to know that we can do it. Nobody said it would be easy, but we can do it. All right. Annie said, they just make you crazy, so I'd rather not be around the black holes. That's clever, Annie. Good for you. All right. Do we have any more questions here? Remember, I only wait 30 seconds after the last question here, and then I disappear. So if you have something on your mind, a question that you have, or anything that you want to contribute, now is the time to do it. Walker Hound Girl says black holes is a very appropriate name for hijackals. Yeah, it's absolutely true, isn't it? Yes, it's important to remember Dr. King tonight. He gave us so much. He wasn't appreciated at the time, but we certainly appreciate him, that all that he did. I had the opportunity when I was in Atlanta to go to his memorial and to his museum, and it was something that really touched my heart because he always had touched my heart. So it is a wonderful thing that we recognize him every year. Marva, hello. You haven't posted before. Welcome. She says, thank you for your help and encouragement. Well, you're so welcome. John, you wrote so many things. I don't know what you want me to read. Oh, maybe this one, John. My new relationships are hard because they ask me, why don't I have friends and family? And why do my sons not care about me? They screw our futures up. I think maybe that might have been what you wanted me to read, John. And you're so right. I mean, when you get out of a hijackal relationship, you are really wise to engage in the healing process, go through all the phases, get some help, because otherwise you will have these questions. People are going to say, well, that's a terrible story. What's wrong with you? And you need to be able to explain and to educate and to include. And if people don't understand, then that's a good way to recognize that they're not the right person for you. But that's such an important thing to do. Walker Hound Gal says, thank you for your wisdom and love. That you are so welcome, and you be well as well. So we've come to the end of our time. There's nothing else here on the board. So I hope you really think about the 3 phases of healing from emotional abuse. You're in the realization phase because you're here with me. I know that you're keeping the internet warm and revved up because you're looking at all kinds of things. That's the realization phase. Then the recovery phase, where you really want to be able to go through the process of regaining possession of something that you've lost or was stolen. And then the recalibration stage, where you start making small incremental changes so that your instrument measures healthily. All very important. And just to end, as Isabel says, stay strong, warriors, you've got this. And so until we speak again, take very good care of yourself, because you're precious and you matter, and you definitely don't deserve to be abused. Talk soon.